Welcome back. Let's go ahead, throw this rebuilt 14B turbo and exhaust manifold back on the Galant and give it its first start. Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of Project 1114, our 1991 Mitsubishi Galant VR-4. What are we doing today, guys? Well, we took everything apart. It just makes sense that we put it back together. So we hope we've addressed everything. Hopefully everything stays in the car, all the fluids, and hopefully we did the time belt right. So that's gonna be cool. We'll find that out today, no pressure. But let's get in there. Let's go ahead, put the turbo back in the car because that's an important part. We all love turbos here. Put our vital fluids in, our engine oil and coolant, and go ahead and start the Galant up for the very first time after all this work. It's a big one, guys. It's a real big one. So, moment of truth. Let's get in the garage and get some work done. Time to put all our freshly painted components back together and get this turbo ready to be dropped in the car. Definitely gasket time. So we got some new metal gaskets. These are a little harder to source. That goes between the manifold and the turbo. Same with the one that goes between the turbo and the O2 housing. Remember also you want to use that coupler again. That drops right in there. Don't lose that bad boy. And there we go. That's how those connect. Actually, get that better in frame for you guys. There you go. So there we go. The turbo is now on the exhaust manifold. We will use the other bolts to secure that. Now it's time to attach the O2 sensor housing. Another gasket that's hard to find. It's a completely metal one. I don't like to reuse those. They get pretty beat up over time, so time to slap a new one on here. Looking pretty good here, guys. Looking really good. So now it's going to be a time-consuming part where we have to take all our oil feed and coolant lines and start piping them into the turbo itself. You can see these red caps. It'll be like this when you get a new turbo or a refurbished turbo, but those will be the ports that you use. So we're going to use the same hardware because it wasn't leaking or anything, but we do have some new gaskets, and you want to use gaskets especially with the oil feed lines. I know those kind of break down over time and leak, so good time to do that. There we go, just attach the final oil line. If you remember, there is an oil feed line that's still in the car that was really hard to get out. So what I'll do is I'll install the manifold and turbo again, and then we'll go ahead and just put that. And it goes right here, so we'll fasten that on. Here we go, guys. The new turbo's hijacked all the parts off the old one. Here we go, here's our new setup, and 1114 is gonna have the ability to make some boost, hopefully, which will be really nice. Also got a new to the downpipe from the O2 housing gasket. These are getting harder to find too. So let's just slam that bad boy on there. Sweet. I think this thing's just about ready to get thrown back on the car. What do you guys say? Okay, don't forget to attach your turbo oil feed here at the oil pan. And you definitely want to make sure you're using a new gasket. This is actually the same exact gasket you use on the turbo itself, where that oil feed line attaches. So you certainly want to put one of these in. You don't want to have a leak at the oil pan. That's a very bad place to have an oil leak. Install this, snug up those 2 screws, and you should be good to go. Whew. I'm not a super fan, I didn't show you on the turbo side, but I'm not a super fan of using these washers again. They kind of crush down, deform, wear in, interestingly. So you don't want to rely on those giving you an oil tight seal. They actually have a new part number. This is the actual Mitsubishi part. You need 2 of them for the oil feed pickup at the oil pan, and then you need another set of 2. This is just the set. I've already put the ones on the turbo, obviously, but these are the ones that are going to go on the oil pan. So same deal. They kind of go just on the hardware there and secure your feed lines. Way better at preventing leaks. If you reuse this hardware, a lot of times you will get a leak. Look how deformed that one is. So you don't want to rely on that holding oil. And your turbo likes to drink oil, so give it some fresh oil. Now this is the point in the process you want to make sure all your coolant and oil lines and everything else connected to your turbo are tightened up nicely. Because once you put that heat shield on, you don't want to keep on covering this. So you want to follow them up and make sure everything is connected the way they should be. You know, all these little connectors here are going to make a big difference if they're not tightened down. So, yep, make sure you're there. And double check and triple check all your connections. When it comes time to do this intercooler elbow, this piece right here, you're going to want to scrape off the old gasket underneath for sure, because it's a paper style one that kind of shatters apart anyway, and you want to get yourself a new one. It appears the newer style is a metallic one that looks just like this. So that's what you're going to want to use. Go ahead and put that in place, bolt this down. You do not want to have a leak right there on the intercooler for sure. And there's our intercooler elbow installed. You want to make sure this little bracket here that comes up from one of your oil, it's an oil feed line for the turbo, goes above the base of the intercooler elbow and under the bolt. And then your gasket is perfectly under there. So that'll be nice and tight, looking good. Well, we wouldn't have made it too far without putting this in the car. Boom, there we go. Got to put the brain back in it, right? So I also got the capacitors redone from ECM Tuning, and on top of that, I also had a chip installed so it can be programmed if anyone wants to get ECM Link, tune this ECU in the future. So it's always nice to do that, little bonus to the next owner. It's completely stock right now, but it does have the ability to be upgraded already. How awesome is that? Keen-eyed viewers at home will notice this is not a stock Galant VR-4 oil filter. It's in fact a later model used for the Evos. So yeah, it fits, of course it fits. Here's the unit right here. So how I came to find these out is when I was running an aftermarket downpipe that was too large and couldn't fit the stock Galant VR-4 oil filter any longer. So upgraded to this bad boy, fits awesome, works great, has no issues clearing the downpipe. So we're gonna install this even though this is a stock car. Why not? The little ease of getting access to it helps. So we'll throw this on the car right now. Well, let's see if she holds water. Alright, let's see if she holds oil. That's the other thing I'm kind of excited about. Alright, let's have a peek and just make sure we're holding all our fluids in like a good engine should. now the moment of truth. We watched to see if coolant starts leaking out from where we repaired that O-ring crossover pipe. You're probably going to get some smoke because of all the various fluids and cleaners, so don't worry about any smoke coming up. I'm actually going to open the garage door right now to make sure I'm ventilated since I am running a car. From this point forward, I'm going to inspect the car with my flashlight, make sure I don't have any leaks, any issues, and then I'm going to continue adding coolant as the car will drink more and more, especially when it gets up to operating temp. The fans come on. You can see some of our smoke right over here. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not very exciting, but I'll cut back when everything's good. Hopefully everything's good. So I did a pretty miserable job ending that last clip there. Just so you guys understand, the car idled perfectly. I went through multiple heat cycles, which is something I always do to make sure we're burping the cooling system, make sure we get any possible bubbles out of there, and added enough coolant as we were going along to keep the system topped off. Again, everything held great. No oil leaks, no coolant leaks, nothing of that nature. So we still got some work to do. Next episode, we're gonna go ahead, put a new valve cover gasket in there to make sure it's not leaking. The old one was leaking a little bit. Some plugs, wires. We're gonna do, further down the line, we're also gonna do all the fluids, so transfer case, diff, and transmission, and some other odds and ends, and then we're gonna be done. We will be doing a review shortly of this vehicle. I'm excited to test the stock Mitsubishi Galant VR-4 out. So far, Project 1114 is going great. Tune in on the next episode or two as we finish up some final items that need to be addressed on the vehicle. Now that the kind of big stuff is out of the way, let's get our final stuff off our list and get this guy back on the road. See you next time, guys. Take care.